Hi, I'm Anna, and today we're going to look at a couple of different common plants that you can find in your neighborhood so that you can learn what they are. All of the plants that I'm about to show you are plants that you'll be able to find just by walking around your neighborhood. One of the things that I think is really fun about starting to learn the plants that are around you is that once you see a few of them and you learn how to identify them, you start seeing them everywhere. Ready to meet our first plant? Let's go. Take a look at this plant here. Does it look familiar to you? It might, and it also might not. If we take a look at these leaves, do they remind you of anything that you have seen before? It's got green leaves that are branching. Sometimes it has these buds, and the way that most people know this plant is that it has these beautiful orange flowers. Can you guess what it is? If you guessed a California poppy, you would be right. This is one of my very favorite plants. It always makes me smile when I see it. How can you tell that something is a California poppy and not some other kind of poppy or another kind of flower? The easiest way to tell, of course, is that it has this very distinctive orange flower that's so delicate. When it's closed up, it looks like this, and when it's more open, it looks like this. You've probably seen it around your neighborhood. People often get it confused with this orange flower. Can you see how they're different? This is calendula. This is a California poppy. California poppy, calendula. See how the calendula has the split in its flower? A California poppy has much larger petals. So that's one way to tell. The other way to tell is that a calendula has these big round leaves that don't have any little cuts out of them. And a California poppy has these leaves that are very delicate. They almost remind us of cilantro or a carrot. The best way to tell that something is a California poppy, if it doesn't have an orange flower, is by the leaves. Lots of different poppies have leaves that look like this, but a California poppy is very special because it wears nail polish. So at the very tips of its leaves, I'm gonna see if I can zoom in here, it has these tiny little bits of pink right at the tips. Let's see if we can look at those. Do you see them? Tiny little pieces of nail polish, California poppy. What do I mean by a native plant? What do you think the word native plant means? When I think of the word native plant, I think of a plant that occurs naturally in a particular region, which is to say that it exists here without humans having to introduce it. So it's a plant that maybe was here before humans got here, or it's a plant that coexists with humans without them having to bring it from somewhere else. It's also a plant that's very specific to the particular ecosystem of the place that it is. So these are all plants that do very well in our California climate and wouldn't do as well in another climate. They're very well adapted for California because they're specific to the California ecosystem. All right, this is our next plant. Let's see if it looks familiar to you. If you've had this plant before, you might remember it because it is very spicy. It has these beautiful flowers that are usually orange, yellow, or red. And it has these beautiful leaves that remind me a little bit of lily pads. It's nasturtium. The word nasturtium means nose tickler in Latin, and it's called that because when you eat it, it makes your nose tickle. How can you identify nasturtium? There are two main ways that you can tell that a nasturtium is a nasturtium. The first one is the number of petals. All nasturtium flowers have 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My favorite way to tell that something is a nasturtium is to do what I call the water test on a leaf. So, if you have your nasturtium leaf, you pick it, find a place where there's a little bit of water, and drip the water on it. You'll be able to use it like a cup to hold your little jewel of water. It'll sit right there on the surface. The last way to tell that something is a nasturtium is by eating it. If you're walking around your neighborhood and you see a nasturtium plant, make sure that you wash it before you eat it. Are you ready? Here we go. Spicy and a little bit sweet at the very end. It's got kind of a lingering, peppery aftertaste. Can you guess what this plant is? It's got beautiful yellow flowers, and as you're walking by it, you might stop in your tracks from its sweet smell. This is Mexican marigold. The best way to tell Mexican marigold is by that sweet smell that it has. If you pick just a leaf of this, you crumble it up, and you smell it. It smells strong and sweet. Mexican marigold flowers come in little clusters like this, like that, and you can see all of those clusters out here. Another thing I love about Mexican marigold flowers is that they remind me of little stars. Their leaves are also very distinct. If you look at each leaf up close, no matter how big or small it is, it always has that 3 leaf at the top, 1, 2, 3, followed by 2 leaves right behind it, 1, 2. That's a big one, but even the littlest ones are like that. See? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 little leaves. Mexican marigold plants tend to be really big. You can see how tall this plant is because it's so much taller than my bike. The top of the plant is up there, and the bike is all the way down here. If you were here, I would think that this plant would probably be taller than most of you. This orange flower has big petals and frilly leaves. This yellow flower has a strong smelling leaf and grows in a big bush. This flower is very spicy if you eat it. It'll make your nose tickle.